All right, we are live on Halftime Hits, this week's edition against Titans versus Dolphins, brought to you by Broadway Sports Media. You can check out our great content at broadwaysportsmedia.com. We'll get it out of the way real early. Make sure if you want to join in on the chat, join in on the Facebook page or the YouTube channel, youtube.com/broadwaysportsmedia.com. I am Jonathan, joined by my co-host Ryan at JB on Broad and at Ryan on Broadway. So again, make sure you check out all our great content at BroadwaySportsMedia.com. Have a new addition to the family this week. It is at No Flags Film on Twitter. He's going to be joining in with some, written content and great content on his YouTube channel for anybody familiar with it. So that's not what you're here for. You're here to talk about the first half of the Titans and Dolphins game. Let me say, it's not fancy, not spectacular, no huge plays. It's just, in my opinion, a better team finally pushing forward on a lesser team. And I think that's what you're seeing here. Ryan, what are your thoughts? Let's start with the offense.
So with the offense, I mean, I think that they got a little conservative there in the middle, but I think that they're doing what they have to do to win. I think they've taken some chances when they have with the play action. I love some of the play action boots that they've gone to where they've rolled out and they've given some protection on Tannehill on the edge by releasing Ferkser and Swaim out into the edge defender, and then putting that defender in conflict and giving Tannehill the opportunity to either run or throw it. It's been working out. So the Titans are playing smart on offense. They're not being over creative. They're not overthinking it. I think that sometimes Downing, when he gets in trouble, is when he overthinks things. And I very much think today that he is staying in his lane and what this offense is capable of. This offense is about as close to healthy as you could ask for. Minus one person, probably, maybe two, depending on your thoughts on Julio. But from what they've got out there, they're rolling. Things are going well. I know that there's not a lot of huge numbers out there, but with the way this defense is playing, and I know we're focusing on offense, and I apologize, but the way this defense is playing, the offense really just has to do what they're doing. Just maintain control. Don't turn the ball over. Don't put your defense into a bad situation. And the offense is getting that job done today.
Well, and I think you saw that a lot of people would have loved to say, hey, let's go for some sort of points here at the end of the half. You have over a minute left. I think a couple of keys there. One, it's the fact that the Dolphins have shown no real threat on offense. And then two is that you only have one timeout left. So in the wet conditions,
Right.
You don't want to make it too much of a risk of a turnover, giving up points. You're more concerned with not giving up points than going to try and find points there. So, look, the offense has been fine. Had a couple big plays there. You've seen going to AJ Brown. They've been a little sloppy on a couple different plays. Tannehill and AJ Brown couldn't get on the same page early on in that first drive where he thought AJ Brown was going to sit down against zone coverage. They did motion on that play to identify zone coverage, which should have been a trigger to AJ Brown of probably, hey, we're going to sit this one down. So ultimately, that is probably the right call. He needs to sit it down. But on that play, you see a Racey McMath breaking open on that wheel route after showing that he was going to come up to a block for that slot corner. Should have been a touchdown right there, frankly.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the downside of having so much trust with a guy like AJ Brown, is you think, oh, he's going to be open, I'm just going to him. Whereas sometimes just go with what the play is designed to do. So,
sure thing. Yeah, McMath was racing down the sideline there. I know it broke right as Tannehill threw it, so he was clearly locked onto AJ, and AJ not sitting it down there. It would have been, that was the first series, and I think that directly led to the second series being a little more conservative, like we were saying. But
sure,
they're taking their opportunities where they can, and I saw in the chat here, so I just want to call it out. Yes, prayers up for MyCole Pruitt. That was nasty. It's probably one of the worst leg breaks I've seen. Hopefully he can heal. I know that's not really relevant to game plan, but that sucks to see.
Let's talk about game plan then, because I have been pretty vocal, and I'm not even the offensive line guy here. MyCole Pruitt is like my spirit animal. I love the way he plays the game.
Sure.
I love the way that he attacks it. I love his entire journey to actually get into to be a stalwart in the Titans offense. Though the way he attacks it, he's not the most athletic dude. He's not a guy that's going to be Travis Kelce. He is a guy that you want on your team. So to see a guy go down like that, as someone who doesn't generally get emotionally invested in any sort of game, any sort of player, I hate to
Right.
see that for a guy like Michael. But let's talk about the impact that can have on the offense. So, talking to an offensive line guy here, what are you looking at with a guy like Michael going out?
Well, you noted earlier that the pass protection has been really good today. I think the pass protection has been good the last couple of weeks because the Titans have done some creative things with their tight ends and being able to chip and use them in routes for hot reads and stuff. Now, Ferkser is still there for some of that. He is doing better, I'll say, than he was early in the season. And Swaim is obviously there, but Swaim is not your athletic guy. Mike Cole kind of gave you this extra. I keep referring to him as an H back, and I've had my hand slapped a little bit, but he's more closer to that. He's not as athletic as your typical H back. I will agree there. But he's closer to an H-back than he is a tight end, which means you can plug him into a whole lot of different places, which means that personnel-wise, you can use him in different ways, disguise him. He can be either line up in the eye, he can line up on the wing, he can line up in tight with the tight end, and he's the same player, and he's capable of all three things. So we talked in length in the offseason about what you lost in Jonnu Smith, and that wasn't necessarily that you were losing a whole lot of stats, but you're losing how the Titans can use him. In a lesser way, that's Mike Cole. And what the Titans can do. He's multi-versatile there. So now you're pretty much down to on the roster, I believe, because I don't think Carter's active yet. And I don't think they've got a whole lot of other options there for that position. Now you're down to Swaim, who's your kind of your lunkhead tight end who sometimes blocks well, sometimes doesn't, just kind of hit or miss with him. And he's also not very athletic. Then you have your more athletic Ferkser, who doesn't block at all. So now the Titans don't have that versatile guy that can kind of plug in and do things and disguise some things for them. So I'm not sure if it makes a big deal, but I hate losing him, A, as a person, and B, of what he can bring to the Titans as far as versatility.
Yeah, if you're talking X's and O's, I think you may see a guy like Radens get in the game where it's going to be a little bit more of that extended offensive line rather than trying to roll out a guy like Michael as a tight end, but is really an extension of the offensive line. So it may change up the kind of the personnel a little bit.
I see Levin in there a little bit more.
Yeah. So I mean, again, hate to see it, but ultimately it's the name of the game, and you got to keep moving forward. But me personally, I hate it. I hate it to see a guy like that because this is a team that's about to go to the playoffs and a guy that's kind of earned it and been a stalwart.
Especially the way this year started for him too. I mean,
for sure,
real good story. So
for sure. So let's move over then. I know it seems a little bit lack of emotions here, but we'll move over then to the defensive side. And look, I put it out on Twitter. Kristian Fulton has kind of proven to be the guy who I don't believe in lockdown corners in today's NFL. I think Jalen Ramsey is about as close as you can get. The NFL just doesn't cater to defense, so having a true lockdown guy, a guy to erase someone. But Kristian Fulton maybe putting his name in that conversation to be as close as you can get. I won't call him a lockdown because I don't think they exist, but Fulton's right there.
It's really a positive sign. I don't mean just for this year, for the future too, because the Titans have seemed to roll free agents in. They've had some hits, they've had some misses, and especially when they've been very thin at that position. To have a guy that you can count on, and then thinking that Farley, who is hurt, is coming back next year, and just as talented, and the reason they got him in the first round, you look at the future for the 1-2. But for right now, having that one side that you can do a lot of things coverage wise, and you can speak to this a lot more than I can, but just knowing that you have the trust in a guy that you can lock down one side of the field and you can do a little more creative things with your zone blitzes, with your zone drops, those kind of things. You're over your brackets and everything like that. So it doesn't seem to matter who that receiver is that's on him either. He's not afraid of the big game. He's not afraid of the big names. So it's really nice to have that in the defense, especially when, and forgive me, the Tennessee Tickle Monsters are back in full force and can get after the quarterback the way they are. I know the sacks aren't really there today, but they're getting after Tua today and making him uncomfortable in a rain game where he has to try to make some extra plays. He's clearly not gripping that ball very well. It's all kind of working out. So having someone on the back end who can hold up like that for as long as they need him to is a gift for this Titans defense.
Yeah, and look, I mean, when you look at that defense, as Ryan's over here breaking things, he's so excited about Kristian Fulton. Apparently, it definitely opens things up. You go back to when the Patriots or whenever the Jets had Darrelle Revis on there. They were able to do so many creative things on defense because you had a player that could essentially take away half of the field. And half of the field was always a melodramatic kind of term right there. Shout out to Justin Mello from the Broadway Sports family here. But, it was always a hyperbolic term where you can say he's taking away half the field. Ultimately, no player is able to do that. But if you can take away the number one option without having to commit a safety over the top or a second player underneath, those kinds of things, it really opens up your opportunity to then go double maybe a tight end, maybe a Gesicki in this game, maybe a Kelsey if you're going against the Chiefs, those kinds of things, or put additional pressure on the quarterback. So this defense is really benefiting from a guy like Christian Fulton really stepping up.
100%.
So lots of things to be excited about both this year moving forward with this defense, because I think you see that there are guys on that defensive line that are continuing to get pressured. Bud Dupree, Danico Autry continues to be the best free agent pickup in the entire NFL. For the price that you got him, it's hard to make a case that anybody was a better free agent pickup than Danico Autry. 4 straight games with a sack. Ultimately, the defense continues to impose their will on the offenses of the other team. And the Titans, we said it from the beginning, just play clean.
Yep.
If you listen to Coach Corner,
you said that on the pod this week, just play clean. That's been what we've been begging for the last 3 weeks. When they play a clean game, they win. So again, we felt pretty confident at halftime for the Steelers game. And here we are saying, just come out and play clean again. You have a 17-3 lead. Looking at the scoreboard around the NFL, Kansas City's currently up 28-17 on the Bengals, unless something really big happens there in the second half. It looks like there's not a whole lot of defense played there, but also it's 13-10 Las Vegas over the Colts. And guys, be easy on Ben. He can't help it. He was dropped on his head as a kid. He's a Colts fan. He's a part of Broadway. We love him. He does some great work for the soccer. We'll allow him to stick around and let it get his go Colts shots in every now and then, whatever. But my point is that, the Titans just have to take care of themselves in the second half. And part of that taking care of them is to take care of the ball, not turn it over, because I think that they could pretty much run the same offense they did in the first half and come away with a win, especially with the way the defense is playing. What you can't do is give the Dolphins short fields, get them easy touchdowns, because that's what happened in the Texans game. It's giving the Texans those short fields and allowing them to capitalize. Titans can't shoot themselves in the foot on offense. Stay on schedule and just run a clean game.
Just totally going to broadcast our t-shirts. You can check us out at shop.broadwaysportsmedia.com. Lots of great material that we're putting together there. We got new stuff rolling out quite a bit there. So make sure you're checking out if you want to actually represent the brand here. Look, if I'm looking at one thing here in the second half, I think the defense continues to do the shutdown. Titans are going to be a little bit conservative on offense with the weather the way it is. And if you're looking for a bit of point of pride, it's don't let Jalen Waddle set the record this week. Jalen Waddle could have more receptions as a rookie wide receiver than any NFL wide receiver in history. And guess what? It becomes with an asterisk if it doesn't happen in this game, because next week it becomes, he had the extra game to do it.
Right.
So that's my point of pride if I'm looking for anything going into the second half. And frankly, they have shut him down and for what he has been doing this rest of the season. So enjoy the second half. We'll be here for the post game. Check us out as always at BroadwayTN, BroadwaySportsMedia.com. I am Jonathan at JB on Broad, my co-host of the Coach's Corner at Ryan on Broadway. We'll see you in 30 minutes of game time.